I always imagined my wedding night would feel like a dream, soft, warm, and glowing, like the final page of a fairy tale I'd been writing since childhood. Even on the most stressful days of planning, even during the disagreements about colors or guests or budget, I held onto one picture: me and him, finally alone, finally married, finally starting our life together in the quiet intimacy of our first night as husband and wife. But reality has a strange way of taking the moments we treasure most and turning them upside down. And that night, our night, was when everything began to unravel. The reception had ended hours earlier. The guests had danced, toasted, cried, and then slowly drifted away into the cold night. By the time we arrived at the small, rustic hotel suite he insisted on booking, a place he said had character and privacy, my feet hurt so badly I couldn't feel them. My makeup had long since melted, my curls were loosening, and all I wanted was to slip into the silk robe hanging in my suitcase and fall onto the bed beside him. He looked tense, smiling but tight, as if every gesture took effort. But the wedding day was overwhelming for both of us, I told myself. He wasn't the most expressive person, and he'd been emotional all evening. Maybe it was normal. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe I was overthinking. I kept repeating maybe to myself so often that it felt like the only word left in my brain. We entered the suite. It was quaint, warm, toned lamps, dark wood beams on the ceiling, and a bed that creaked loudly every time either of us breathed near it. I laughed at that, making a joke about how it would probably squeal in protest if we so much as sat on it. He didn't laugh. He just put his bag down, glanced at his phone, and mumbled something about needing to check something. It was small. A moment so tiny I shouldn't have stumbled over it. But something about the look in his eyes, something that flickered there, some tension, some edge, made me feel like the temperature in the room dropped 3 degrees. I stepped closer to him, touching his arm, trying to bring the softness back into the room. "Hey," I whispered. "We made it. We're married." His eyes softened for a moment. He touched my cheek, but it felt brief. Like a gesture performed because it was expected, not because it came from inside him. "I know," he said. It's been a long day." And then, without warning, he pulled away and turned toward the bathroom. "I'll take a quick shower." "Okay," I replied, forcing cheerfulness. "I'll get ready too." I started unpacking my small bag, my robe, my lotion, my perfume, and tried to shake off the uneasiness. Nerves, exhaustion, the intensity of the day, it all made sense. My rational brain kept trying to soothe me, smoothing over the cracks that were already forming. But my heart was starting to whisper things I didn't want to hear. The shower ran for longer than expected. Much longer. I kept glancing toward the bathroom door, listening. At first, I thought he was just taking his time, maybe trying to unwind after the craziness of the wedding. But after nearly 40 minutes of running water, I began to worry. What was he doing in there? Why so long? Why was I standing in this quiet room, alone, still in my wedding dress, waiting? I went to the door, knocked softly. "Babe, everything okay?" There was a pause. Then his voice, strained, like he'd been startled. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just give me a minute." Another minute passed, then 5. When he finally came out, he was already dressed, fully dressed, in jeans and a plain black T-shirt I didn't recognize. His wet hair was slicked back, and his eyes avoided mine. "Why are you dressed?" I asked, trying to laugh it off but unable to hide the confusion in my voice. "I have to step out for a bit," he said. The words didn't register at first. They just kind of hung in the air, hovering in a cold silence that wrapped around me like a sheet of ice. "What?" I whispered. "It's our wedding night." "I know." His voice was flat. But something came up. "Came up," I repeated, almost choking on the disbelief. What could possibly come up at midnight? Tonight of all nights. He didn't answer. He didn't offer an explanation, a reassurance. Not even a lie to soften the blow. He just grabbed his phone, keys, and wallet, moving with a quiet urgency that made my stomach twist. I stepped in front of him as he reached for the door. "Please just tell me what's going on," I said, my voice trembling. "I'm not angry, I'm just confused." He paused, just for a moment. His eyes flicked up to meet mine, and in that single second, something flickered there. Conflict, guilt, fear, and then he blinked, and it was gone. "It's nothing," he said. "Go to sleep. I'll be back soon." And then he left. He closed the door behind him. I heard the click of the lock, the sound of his footsteps retreating down the hallway. The silence that followed felt suffocating. I stood there frozen, still wearing my wedding dress, watching the door as if staring long enough would make him walk back in. He didn't. Minutes passed. Then an hour, then 2. I kept calling his phone, but it rang twice and went to voicemail. I sent texts, short, long, pleading, neutral, but they remained unread. Where was he? What was he doing? Why would he abandon me, his new wife, on the night we were supposed to start our life together? By the time the clock read 11:48 p.m., my tears had dried. I wasn't even crying anymore. I felt empty. Numb. I changed out of my wedding dress, washed my face, and curled up on the bed, trying to convince myself he would walk in any second and laugh and tell me it was all a misunderstanding. But when the clock hit midnight, that's when I heard it. A sound, soft at first, then clearer, a noise coming from the hallway. No, closer. Right outside our door. At first, I thought he was finally back. Relief flooded me so quickly that my body actually jolted upright. I rushed to the door, ready to fling it open with a mix of fury and desperation. But before I could touch the knob, I froze. Because the sound wasn't him walking. It wasn't the jingle of keys or the familiar rhythm of his footsteps. No, it was something else entirely. Something that made the hairs on my arms rise. Something that made my heart slam against my ribs. A whisper, a shuffle, a low, deliberate movement right on the other side of the door, as if someone, or something, was standing there, listening, waiting. And then, in a voice I didn't recognize, a woman's voice, faint but unmistakably close, the whisper came again. This time clearer, this time chilling me to the bone. "Are you awake?" For a moment, I thought I had imagined it. Midnight does strange things to the mind, especially when you've spent the past few hours drowning in confusion, humiliation, and an H that feels like it's carved right through your ribs. But no, I heard it again. A soft shuffle, a slow exhale, and then the faintest whisper sliding under the crack of the door like a cold draft. "Are you awake?" My breath caught in my throat. My pulse hammered so loudly I thought whoever, or whatever, was on the other side would hear it. I stumbled backward, my hand flying to my mouth. For a long, trembling second, I couldn't decide if I should scream, hide, or run. But I didn't move. I couldn't. My legs felt like they were set in concrete. This wasn't my husband. This wasn't anyone I knew. This was a woman, a stranger. But why would a woman be outside our suite, whispering at my door at midnight? The walls of my skull felt like they were closing in, squeezing my thoughts until they blurred together. No part of this night made sense anymore. Not my husband leaving. Not the unanswered calls. And definitely not the eerie presence outside my door. I swallowed, trying to muster a sound. Hello," I whispered back before my brain could stop me. The reply came almost immediately. "Oh, good," the woman murmured, her voice barely audible but unmistakably pleased. "You're still awake." My heart dropped clear into my stomach. Still awake. How did she know? What did she want? Slowly, too slowly. I walked toward the door, my feet trembling with each tiny step. I pressed my ear against it, listening. A soft breath, a shift of weight. She was standing right there. Right on the other side. My hand hovered over the knob. "Who are you?" I whispered. A pause. A breath. And then, "I need to talk to you." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat had twisted itself into a painful knot. "I know what you're thinking," she continued. "But please, don't be scared. I'm not here to hurt you." Those are exactly the words someone says when they are there to hurt you. My body went cold. I stepped back from the door, instinctively reaching for the bedside lamp, switching it on. The warm glow filled the room, but it gave me no comfort. Shadows gathered in the corners, stretching long and thin, like fingers reaching toward me. The whispering voice outside spoke again. Firmer now. Please. I don't have much time. And you don't either. My blood froze. Time. What did that mean? Was something going to happen? I forced air into my lungs, trying to think. Should I call the hotel front desk? Security. The police. Should I try my husband again? I grabbed my phone and dialed him. 1 ring, 2, 3. Straight to voicemail. Again. My hands shook harder with each attempt. It didn't make sense. Why would he turn off his phone on our wedding night? Why would he leave me alone in a strange hotel? Why would he? A knock cut through the silence. Not loud, not forceful, just a single eerie tap that sent a bolt of terror straight down my spine. Let me in, the woman whispered. Please. You need to hear this. No, I whispered, scrambling backward. No, I'm calling the front desk. No, she hissed, voice suddenly sharp, urgent. You can't involve them. He'll know. He. The word hit me like a brick. My chest tightened painfully. He. Did she mean my husband? The room spun slightly. I sat down on the edge of the bed, clutching the blanket. What are you talking about? I whispered. Who will know? For a moment, there was only silence. I thought maybe she had gone. Maybe she realized I wasn't opening the door. Maybe she. Then she spoke again, softer now, almost sad. I tried to warn the others, too. The others. My skin prickled, every hair standing on end. What others? I breathed. She didn't answer. Instead, I heard the soft scrape of paper sliding under the door. I stared at the small, folded slip that now rested on the carpet, its edge slightly crumpled. My stomach twisted. Another whisper came, barely audible. Read it. I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed at me not to. But my hands moved on their own, trembling as I picked up the paper. I unfolded it. Inside were just 3 words, written in hurried, shaky handwriting. Don't RUS time. My breath caught. My chest felt like it was caving in. Don't trust him. My husband. The man I had just married. The man whose last words to me tonight were a cold, distant, I'll be back soon. My heart pounded wildly. Before I could say a word, another sound filled the hallway. Footsteps. Heavy, fast footsteps approaching. The woman outside the door inhaled sharply. He's coming, she whispered. Hide the note. Quickly. My blood turned to ice. Who's coming? I whispered, my voice shaking violently. But she didn't answer. I heard the soft thud of her running down the hallway, her footsteps fading until there was nothing left but silence. I stood frozen, clutching the paper so tightly it wrinkled in my palm. The heavy footsteps grew closer. 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 They stopped directly outside my door. A shadow shifted beneath the crack. Someone was standing there. My breath hitched, my heart nearly bursting. Please let it be him, I begged silently. Please let him have come back, so I can ask him what's going on, so he can explain, so this nightmare can end. Knock. Knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I jumped so hard my phone fell from my hands onto the floor. My fingers felt numb, my skin clammy. Then, Ani. A man's voice. Familiar, calm, my husband. Relief and fear crashed into each other so violently that I felt sick. It's me, he said gently. Open the door. My hands shook as I reached for the knob, but something stopped me. The note. Don TRSTM. My fingers hovered over the lock. He knocked again, soft this time. Honey, are you okay? I stared at the door, at the shadow of his feet beneath it. My mind felt like it was splitting in 2. One part of me wanted to collapse into his arms, demand answers, cling to him just to feel safe. But another part of me, cold, trembling, alert, remembered the woman's voice, the urgency, the fear, the words. You don't have much time. My hand drifted to my chest, my heartbeat erratic. Why did you leave? I asked through the door, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. He paused. Too long. I told you, he said. Something came up. That's not an answer? Silence. The air grew heavy, suffocating. Finally, he spoke again, quieter now. Please open the door. We need to talk. My skin prickled. Talk about what? Where had he gone? Why wasn't he telling me anything? Why did a stranger know more than I did? My voice cracked as I whispered. Who was the woman in the hallway? Another long silence. Then I heard him breathe in sharply, almost like a flinch. "What woman?" he asked. Not confused, not surprised, not curious. His tone held something else. Something rehearsed. Something that made my stomach twist. "Honey," he said again, and his voice turned eerily calm. "Open the door. Right now." I stepped back, heart racing, the note clenched in my hand. "Dawn, trust him?" His hand turned the knob gently, testing it. "It's locked," he said softly. He knocked once more, sharp, impatient. "Ani, open the door." I didn't move. The silence between us stretched thin. Then, in a voice that didn't sound like him at all, a low whisper, "We don't have to do this the hard way." My blood ran cold. I stumbled backward so fast I nearly tripped over the bed. My husband's shadow shifted under the door. He was leaning closer, listening, waiting, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't safe. Not with him, not with the woman, not with anyone. This night, my wedding night, was no longer a dream. It was a trap, a warning, a beginning, and the darkness behind the door was no longer just darkness. It was danger. For a long, frozen moment, all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. It raced so violently I thought it might burst through my ribs. My husband, my brand new husband, stood on the other side of the door, speaking in a tone I had never heard before. Cold, controlled, dangerous. "We don't have to do this the hard way," he had whispered. The words echoed inside my skull, bouncing around until everything else faded. My hands shook, my breath stuttered, and I clutched the note tighter, its edges digging into my palm like a warning carved into flesh. "Do it Tuesday time." I swallowed hard, stepping back again as the shadow of his feet shifted beneath the door. He wasn't moving away, he was waiting. Listening, almost calculating. "Honey," he said again, voice returning to that eerily calm softness. "You're scaring me. Please just open the door so we can talk. Nothing is wrong, I promise." Promises. That word felt poisonous. I pressed my back against the wall opposite the door, trying to steady my breathing. Something deep inside me, something instinctive and animal, kept whispering, "Don't open it." "What happened?" I asked, my voice trembling but loud enough for him to hear. "Where were you? Why did you leave me alone on our wedding night?" Another long pause. He inhaled, slow and deliberate. "Ani, please, open the door. I can explain everything." "I want you to explain now," I said. Silence. Then a soft chuckle slipped from his throat. Not joyful, not amused. "Just off! You're tired," he said. "You've had a long day. You're confused. Let me in, and I'll tell you everything." His tone was sweet, too sweet. Sugary on the surface but rotting underneath. "What woman were you talking to?" I whispered. The air sharpened. Even through a closed door, I felt a shift in him, like a predator lowering its shoulders. "What woman?" he repeated slowly, carefully. "You heard me." My voice shook, but I pushed through it. "Someone was here. She said she needed to warn me. She said I didn't have much time." Silence thickened the hallway. "Then," he sighed. But it wasn't a sigh of confusion or concern. It was the kind of sigh someone gives when they're caught, but trying not to show it. "Honey, there was no woman." "Less there was." "No," he said firmly, almost scoldingly. "You're exhausted. You probably fell asleep and had a nightmare." A gaslighting. So smoothly delivered it almost sounded logical. Almost. But I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't that tired. And the note, crumpled in my shaking hand, was real. "I'm not imagining this," I said. She slipped a note under the door. Another pause. Then he asked a question that made my limbs turn to ice. "What did the note say?" "Note? What note?" "Or, let me see it." "No," he asked calmly. "What did it say?" He already knew the note existed. I clutched it tighter, heart slamming. "Tell me what it said." He repeated, softer. I didn't answer. Instead, I slid sideways along the wall toward the closet, my movements slow, deliberate. I needed space. I needed an escape. I needed. My foot bumped something on the floor. My phone. I bent down quickly and grabbed it. He heard the movement. The shadow under the door shifted. "Honey," he said, almost gently. "What are you doing?" "I'm calling security," I blurted out. For the first time, his calm cracked. Just a little. No. A single sharp word. I froze. Honey, he said again, tone resettling into forced softness. Don't do that. Please. Why not? My voice quivered. Because they'll disturb the guests. That's not a reason. I backed toward the closet again. He let out another slow breath. You don't trust me, he said quietly. On our wedding night, his voice was soft, hurt even, but the hurt felt artificial, like a mask slipping into place. I stayed silent. Then something changed. The doorknob rattled. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped my phone again. Honey, he said, a slight tremor in his voice now. I'm going to ask one more time. Open the door. No, I yelped, backing into the closet. Stay away! The knob twisted sharply, once, twice, then stilled. A thick, heavy silence settled. Then his tone changed completely. No warmth, no softness, no sweetness, just pure, cold steel. Open this door. I slid into the closet, closing the door gently behind me. The darkness swallowed me, stale and suffocating. My breath shook as I pressed myself back into the shadows. I clutched the note in one hand, my phone in the other. Outside the closet he began speaking again, slowly, steadily, footsteps shifting as he moved. You're overreacting, he said. You're scared. You're confused. That's okay. But this is ridiculous. He walked closer to the door. I heard the soft creak of the floorboards beneath him. You don't need to hide from me, he said. I'm your husband. The word sounded wrong in his mouth. I hid deeper in the closet, curling in on myself, forcing quiet breaths. Honey, he continued, come out. Let's talk, no more games. Outside the closet, closer now, his footsteps stopped. Then I realized something horrifying. He wasn't talking to the door anymore. He was talking to the room. He thought I was still there. I covered my mouth with my hand to silence my breathing. A moment later, I heard him move again. He walked slowly across the room, toward the bed. The bed springs groaned as he sat down. My lungs tightened. He wasn't leaving. He was waiting. The seconds stretched into minutes, each one heavier than the last. My legs ached from crouching. My lungs burned from breathing too quietly. The closet felt tighter with every passing moment. Then, my phone buzzed. I nearly screamed into my hands. I fumbled to silence it, looking at the screen. Unknown number. My heart dropped. I stared at it. Buzz. Buzz. A text popped up. Don't come out. No matter what you hear. My skin exploded in goosebumps. Another text. He lied to you. About everything. My throat tightened painfully. Another buzz. If he finds you, you won't leave that room. I trembled harder, staring at the glowing screen in my dark hiding place. I didn't know who this woman was or how she got my number. I didn't know what she wanted or what she knew. But everything inside me believed her. As I read the messages, my husband shifted on the bed. His feet hit the floor. His steps grew louder, slow, deliberate, moving toward the closet. I pressed myself back against the wall, choking on fear. He stopped right outside. His shadow slipped under the door. For a long moment he didn't speak. Then, a soft knock against the closet door. Tap, tap, tap. Honey, he whispered, so close I could hear the warmth of his breath through the door. Why are you hiding from me? My heart slammed violently. Tears filled my eyes. He slowly turned the closet knob. It clicked under his hand. It's not locked, he whispered, almost lovingly. Just open it. I held my breath frozen. The knob turned a second time. A third, he exhaled softly. Fine, he murmured. We'll do it like this. His voice dropped into something dark. Something that made the air go thin. You're my wife now. You can't run from me. My entire body shook. He wasn't pleading anymore. He wasn't even pretending. He was claiming. My phone buzzed again, one more message flashing across the screen. He knows, get ready. This is when everything starts. And as my husband's hand slowly began pushing the closet door open, I realized the woman was right. This night, my wedding night, was about to turn into something I might not survive. My breath caught as I steadied my trembling hands against the railing. The sound drifted again, soft, rhythmic, almost whisper-like. Not footsteps, not the wind, not even the usual settling creaks of an old house. This was different. A voice. No, 2 voices. I didn't dare move at first. My heart hammered so loudly I wondered if the strangers in my home could hear it. I strained to listen, wiping a cold bead of sweat from my forehead. "Don't wake her," a deep voice murmured. "Wake me." Someone knew I was here. Every instinct screamed at me to run back to my room and lock the door, but another part of me, shaken, betrayed, furious, drove me forward. I crept closer to the half-open door at the end of the hallway. Light flickered inside, a faint orange glow like candlelight. I held my breath, then I pushed. The door groaned faintly, and that's when I saw him. My husband, still wearing his tucked shirt, sleeves rolled up, tie undone. He was kneeling on the floor, next to someone crouched beside him. My brain struggled to understand what I was seeing. There was no romantic entanglement, no woman, no drunken meltdown, no secret lover as my fear had convinced me all night. Instead, they were both hovering over a large metal case, half-opened, filled with documents, cash bundles, and strange, polished devices that looked nothing like anything I'd ever seen in normal life. I felt the ground shift under my feet. What is this?" The words escaped before I could stop them. My husband's head snapped up. His face went pale. "Emily," he breathed, "you weren't supposed to see this." The man beside him, tall and broad, shouldered with a scar cutting through his eyebrow, stood upright instantly. Like a soldier reacting to a threat, I stumbled back. My husband raised both hands, palms up. "Please. Don't be afraid." "Afraid?" My voice broke. "You left me alone on our wedding night, and now you're—" I gestured, shaking. "Having secret meetings at midnight with some stranger and a metal box full of whatever this is." The stranger walked toward me. "No," my husband barked. "Stay back, Marcus!" Marcus froze. My chest tightened. The air felt too thin. "Tell me what's going on. Right now." He hesitated, then exhaled. "The truth is, my disappearance tonight wasn't about you. It wasn't personal, I promise you that. Something happened. Something I've been trying to shield you from." "Shield me," I snapped. "You abandoned me." He closed the metal case slowly. "My family isn't what you think they are." That stopped me cold. "Your family?" He nodded grimly. "For years, we've been forced into something dangerous. Hidden. Illegal." His voice lowered. "My wedding night wasn't the first time they tried to use me, but it's the first time I refused." The room spun. I leaned against the wall. "What are you saying? What's in that case?" Marcus spoke this time, his voice a low rumble. "Evidence. And a very expensive target on our backs now that you've seen it." I swallowed hard. "Target." My husband reached for me, gently touching my arm. "Emily, listen to me carefully. I love you. I married you because you're the only person who ever made me want a normal life. But tonight everything changed." My pulse roared in my ears. "Changed how?" Before he could answer, the door behind us slammed shut. Marcus lunged toward the window. My husband grabbed my wrist. And then, a voice from the hallway spoke calmly, chillingly, going somewhere. My blood went ice cold. Someone else was inside the house. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Someone who had been waiting for the exact moment I learned too much. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The voice from the hallway froze every breath inside my lungs. It was calm, too calm, slow and poisonous, the kind of voice that didn't need to shout to prove it was dangerous. Marcus moved first. He stepped between us and the doorway, stance squared, muscles tight beneath his jacket. My husband tightened his grip on my wrist, not in fear of me running, but in fear of what was coming. Footsteps echoed softly, controlled, unhurried. Then the intruder appeared. A man, mid-50s maybe, in a tailored charcoal suit. Silver streaks through his dark hair, sharp eyes that carried the weight of someone who had seen far too much and done worse. My husband's entire body tensed. "Father," he whispered. My stomach dropped. His father. The one my husband avoided talking about. The reason behind the tension in his voice whenever I mentioned family visits. The empty seat at the wedding he never explained. He stepped into the room with quiet authority, gaze sweeping over the scene. The open case. Marcus ready to strike, me trembling against the wall. "So," his father said, voice smooth. The bride finally knows. My husband moved in front of me instinctively. Don't touch her. A faint, cold smile curved the older man's lips. Do you think I came here to harm your wife? He raised a brow. Tonight was supposed to go differently, son. You were supposed to sign the documents. Marcus was supposed to deliver the package, and this beautiful girl, he gestured toward me, was supposed to remain blissfully unaware of our business. I felt sick. Your business? I choked out. You mean the illegal operations you dragged your son into? He glanced at me as though evaluating a pawn on a chessboard. Illegal is such a narrow word. We provide services, security, influence, financial flows across borders. Something your husband was born to help manage. My husband, I said sharply, wanted a normal life. His father's eyes hardened. And that's why he's always been a disappointment. My husband lunged, but Marcus grabbed his shoulder. Not now, Marcus hissed. The father stepped closer, hands behind his back. The moment you married him, Emily, you became leverage. I stumbled back. Leverage. Less. His tone was almost bored. A spouse is the perfect tool. Pressure, control, motivation. My husband's voice cracked with fury. You won't touch her. You won't pull her into your world. Oh, you've already done that yourself. He pointed to the metal case on the floor. She has seen too much. A lump rose in my throat. I didn't ask to see any of this. I whispered. I didn't want to be involved. I know. His smile returned, soft, eerie, deliberate. And that is the tragic part. Marcus shifted his weight, glancing between us. We should go, he murmured. But my husband shook his head. We're not leaving until she's safe. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something raw in his eyes. Regret. Fear, love, all twisted together. I should have told you, he whispered. I should have trusted you from the beginning. I swallowed tears. Then tell me now. He hesitated, but the truth came spilling out. My father runs an international laundering operation. Money, weapons, corporate blackmail. I grew up surrounded by it, groomed to become his successor. When I tried to break away a year ago, he sent Marcus to drag me back. Marcus exhaled sharply. It wasn't like that. My husband continued, but Marcus turned out to be the only decent person in the whole organization. He helped me hide some of the evidence so I could negotiate my freedom. Tonight everything blew up. They wanted me back in the fold before the wedding sealed me off legally. My voice shook, so the midnight meeting was me trying to get out permanently. He cupped my cheek gently. For us. My husband's father clapped slowly, mockingly, touching. Truly. But your little speech doesn't change the reality. She's now part of this, whether she likes it or not. I felt a wave of terror rise inside me. But then something strange happened. Marcus stepped in front of my husband's father. She's not part of anything, he growled. The room went silent. My husband stared. His father narrowed his eyes. I blinked through the fear. Marcus. My husband asked cautiously. Marcus didn't move. I'm done. I'm done cleaning up your messes. Done watching you destroy people's lives. He deserves a chance to get out. And she never asked for this. The older man's voice dropped dangerously low. Be careful. Marcus. No, Marcus said firmly. Not this time. Mine just like that? The balance shifted. My husband's father glanced around the room as if calculating odds. For the first time, he no longer looked fully in control. You're both making a mistake, he warned. There are consequences. My husband stepped beside Marcus. We're ready for them. But then, something unexpected jolted through the room. Sirens. Faint at first, then growing louder. Bright flashes reflected off the window. Police. For a moment, no one moved. Marcus cursed under his breath. They're early. I stared at him. Early. My husband swallowed. Marcus triggered an anonymous drop earlier tonight. When things started spiraling, he sent files. Everything we collected. Marcus nodded. Someone had to. My husband's father stiffened, jaw clenching. You traitor. Then everything erupted. Marcus pushed the older man back. My husband grabbed me, pulling me behind him as footsteps thundered up the stairs and voices shouted from outside. Flashlights cut through the windows. "Open the door!" Police yelled. "Hands where we can see them." The next seconds blurred into chaos. Marcus knelt and placed his hands on his head. My husband followed, positioning himself protectively in front of me even as he surrendered. His father backed into the corner, fury etched into every wrinkle of his face. The door burst open. Officers flooded the room. Guns raised. Commands loud and sharp. I stood frozen, tears streaming silently, watching everything unravel. Within minutes, the world I thought I knew collapsed. My husband's father was arrested first, charged with illegal operations, international laundering, conspiracy. His expression remained cold as he was led away in handcuffs. Marcus turned himself in willingly, cooperating fully. My husband was questioned but not arrested. The files proved he had been trying to break away for months. Officers treated him more like a victim than a suspect. I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering. And then my husband approached me. "Emily," his voice cracked. "I'm so sorry." I didn't respond at first. I didn't know how. My wedding night had become a nightmare. A labyrinth of secrets, lies, danger. The man I married wasn't who I thought he was. But he wasn't the monster I feared either. He had fought to escape. He had fought to protect me. And he had finally chosen truth. I wiped my tears and whispered, "Are you safe now?" He nodded weakly. "Safer than I've been in years." "Then?" My voice trembled. "We can start over." His eyes filled with relief so deep it made my heart ache. "I want nothing more than that," he said, pulling me into his arms. For the first time that night, I felt like I could breathe. Weeks later, the investigation dragged on for weeks. Court hearings, statements, interviews. It was exhausting, traumatic, but slowly, painfully, life found a new rhythm. Marcus accepted a plea deal in exchange for testifying. My husband supported him, insisting Marcus had saved both of us. As for us, we began therapy, individually and together. We talked about trust, about trauma, about choices and forgiveness. It wasn't easy. Some days were heavier than others. Some nights I woke up panicked, hearing echoes of that midnight voice. But he was always there, gentle, patient, determined. One evening months later, we stood on our small balcony overlooking the city. The air was cool. Lights shimmered below. He held my hand. "I know I broke your trust. I can't erase that. But I promise you, every day forward, you will get nothing but honesty from me." I leaned my head on his shoulder. "We've both been through hell, but we survived." But he kissed the top of my head. Together. For the first time, the word didn't feel fragile. It felt strong, real, ours. If you've made it this far, thank you for walking through this dark, tangled story with me. A wedding night turned into a nightmare. A husband chained to his family's secrets. Midnight sounds that exposed everything, and a truth that almost destroyed us. But healing is possible, even after betrayal, even after fear, even after the deepest wounds. Sometimes the person you love is fighting a battle you don't see, and sometimes finding the truth means you finally get to build a life that's real. If you want more stories like this, filled with mystery, twists, and emotional depth, make sure to subscribe, share, and stay tuned. Your story matters, your trust matters, and you are never alone in the dark.